step up.
Senator Longley, Representative Cornfield, members of the Joint Standing Committee on Education and Cultural Affairs. My name is Gary Wight, first selectman for the town of Newry, and I am speaking in opposition to LD 1080. The Board of Selectmen opposes this bill because it takes away the right of the voters of the town of Newry to decide whether to withdraw from the school administration it now belongs to. We understand that the town has had this right since it joined SAD 44 in the late 1960s. Why should this right now be taken away from the town of Newry? Only from the town of Newry, out of all of Maine's municipalities. Whether Newry should withdraw from SAD 44 is a matter of local debate. The good people are on both sides of the question. But this bill would take away the right of Newry voters to decide to form a withdrawal committee, to negotiate a withdrawal agreement, and to vote on a withdrawal agreement. If passed, this would be unfair to Newry voters and residents, and it would set a bad example for withdrawal efforts in other towns. I understand that approximately 12 towns in Maine are exercising their right to use the SAD withdrawal process. Please reserve the right of Newry voters to determine where the town will educate its students. Please vote that LD 1080 ought not to pass. Thank you for your consideration, and I'm glad to answer any questions that I can.
Thank you, Mr. White. Senator Mott?
Mr. Chair, I realize now I asked my question prematurely. Here's the fellow I would ask. Out of all the properties, what percentage of the properties that are in Newry are year-round?
I wouldn't add that, but there will be some testimony later that would have, our administrator is here to speak, and she can probably answer that question better than I.
Okay.
Do you have any questions for Mr. White, Representative Sampson?
Thanks, Mr. Chair. Thanks for being here. Beautiful area you live in. My question to you is maybe you can, as a you're selectman, if you could give an analysis, not only of the tuition, but there are other costs that you would have to incur, correct? Like the buses, any debt incurred, special ed. What, have you determined how much, if you were to tuition your students back to SAD 44, what would you be paying per student?
Well, as far, from, like was said before, I think it would be like the state tuition thing would be like $10,000 for high school students and $8,000 for elementary kids. I don't know if that's the state level, but that's what we've been told through the withdrawal process, that if we sent them there, that would be our tuition thing. As far as buses, I don't know if, we haven't really reached an agreement, so we haven't really done a lot of research on what we'd have to spend for transporting our kids to the schools, but I'm sure it would be some type of fee on that issue. As far as the other costs, the special ed needs and stuff, I think that would all have to be whether or not Newry does withdraw and how we would have to come up with an agreement with all that. I would not have the figures on the top of my head of what that might cost.
Mr. White, as another testimony talked about a lot of the properties owned by out of state or out of town. I would say people not able to vote in Newry, is that correct?
There's only, like they said, somewhere around 360 residents. The other people that own property would not be allowed to vote.
So today you're here representing the 300 residents, more than the second
I
property.
would say more than, but there are some that do have an opinion on their, I mean, they're paying taxes, they would like things to go, to get the best bang for their buck, I would assume.
Okay, just, I want to have that clear. Representative Fuller.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a quick question. In your testimony, you say please preserve the right of Newry voters to determine where the town will educate its students. Because Newry is considering withdrawing from the SAD, are they also considering establishing their own school system?
I don't think it's so much as establishing their own school system, which they probably could, but they could tuition them into Gould, or pay the tuition up to a certain point to pay, help the parents to pay for them to go to Gould. There's nothing to say that they could not go to RSU 10. There has not been any agreement to whether they go tuition back to SAD 44. We would of course like to help out that way if what little bit there is, but there's really been nothing, whether they go to RSU 10, Gould, Hebron. I mean, there's a lot of private schools out there that if their students wanted to go, we would be more than glad to help.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. White.
Thank you.
Still taking testimony in opposition?
Good morning.
Hey, good morning.
Senator Langley and Representative Cornfield, members of the Joint Standing Committee on Educational Affairs. My name is Jim Largess, and I'm also Selectman in Newry. I'm asking you to join me in opposing LD 1080, an act to prevent economic hardship, for the following reasons. I believe the root of desire for many Newry voters, I believe the root of desire to withdraw for many Newry voters is a result of people feeling that we've been singled out when it comes to funding education. We pay solely on valuation, as everyone else in the state of Maine used to. When it was decided that a mixed evaluation in student population was a more equitable way to fund education, we exempted that change because of the tax shift it would have created. Many in Newry feel that was unfair, but more importantly, are frustrated by the feeling that we never had a chance to have our voices heard on that issue. As a result of that frustration, I believe a number of people voted to start the withdrawal process to see what other educational options were available to the town. They voted to look into withdrawal because they feel singled out and did not get a chance to vote on the last change, not because they have specific issues with the education being offered in SAD 44. LD 1080 adds to that frustration by singling Newry out once again. Not only in the state, but in our own school district. The bill leaves in place the withdrawal process for the rest of the towns in the school district, but once again singles Newry out as the one town in the district cannot leave. I don't understand how that's fair. I believe wholeheartedly in every town's responsibility to educate our children and to fund that education. It should be our #1 priority. I also believe in rural areas like ours, a regional solution is the way to go. It can offer more educational, cultural, athletic opportunities for area students in a small single-town school could. This is one of the reasons the school districts were originally put together. I've been told by people that I know and trust that LD 1080 is for the greater good and Newry just needs to let go and move on. I thought long and hard about that. I do understand and support the greater good, but in this case, I don't believe it justifies taking away our ability to determine the best way to educate our kids simply because of economics, as proposed in an act to prevent economic hardship. We need to do better. And by we, I mean the towns and the local school district, school administrators, SAD 44 school board, and the Maine Department of Education. We need to do better than taking away Newry's right to vote because we have money but no votes under an act to prevent economic hardship. We need to take advantage of being a well-funded district due to the fact that so many of our towns have second homeowners that add to our tax base. Newry is not the only one with second homeowners. We need to build community by working together, not tearing it down. By taking advantage of the limited number of voters that Newry has when it comes to regional issues. LD 1080 is bad legislation. It's bad for Newry and it's bad for SAD 44 because it forces Newry to stay as opposed to creative reasons to stay. Reasons that could benefit the entire district. LD 1080 is bad legislation because it sets a dangerous precedent of taking away individuals' towns' ability to choose how to best educate its own children. LD 1080 is bad legislation because it takes away our right to go to the voting booth and vote no, I don't want to withdraw. It's unfair to single us out again. It is even more troubling to be singled out in our own district. I ask you to put yourself in our shoes. How would you feel if your right to vote on any specific issue was taken away because the other people around you said you got plenty of money? That's what this bill is about. Everyone knows the amount of money one has, large or small, cannot be a determining factor in voting rights. Please vote against this bill. Help us work toward building educational opportunity for all our students in SAT 44 and students throughout the state. Thanks for listening. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Largess. Senator Millett.
Mr. Chair, is the Newry, a year-round Newry residents pay more in school taxes than the year-round residents in Bethel and the other communities of SAD 44?
It's very similar. If you look at what we pay, $100,000 house in Newry versus $100,000 house in a lot of the other towns, pretty flat. This isn't for me about that. This is about taking away our right to choose. That's the problem I have with the bill.
Yeah, thank you. I'm going to try to push that aside. I'm trying to understand how we even got here. I think all of us in this committee would hope that things, a local issue could be handled locally.
I would agree.
And so I'm trying to understand, if a Newry resident, a year-round resident, is paying the same amount roughly in property taxes towards the school system as any of the other SAD 44,
Right.
why is it for Newry then to withdraw?
So Newry hasn't decided to withdraw. There are people who have decided that we should look into withdrawal. And as I said at the beginning of my testimony, I believe that why they got supported is not because people wanted to withdraw, but people wanted to see if there was other options, because we feel like we don't have a voice. If you look at the representation on the board, we have like 6%. And I'm certainly not lobbying for paying based on dollars. As my testimony said, dollars shouldn't be the reason why we make educational decisions. We need to focus on education. But I want to be clear that not everybody in Newry wants to withdraw. Not everybody in Newry is a proponent of getting out. This bill has added fuel to the fire and had many people saying, wait a minute, what's happening now? It's that feeling of being singled out that I talked about at the beginning, where we were exempted when the law changed, I think it was 2005, and went from all valuation to part valuation and part student. We were exempted from that because of the tax shift that would have created. That caused some heartburn. Right, wrong, and different, that caused some heartburn. And then this bill comes along and says, you know what, you can't leave. That's caused a whole lot of heartburn, and I really think that has added a lot more fuel to this than it should. It's clouding the issue. Withdrawal is an issue that we people in town either support or don't support. Frankly, withdrawing from the school to tuition our kids back in is nothing I would ever support. I've been public about that, and everybody in this room knows that. But taking away our right to choose is why I'm here today and what I have a problem with 1080.
Thank you. Representative Sampson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you for being here. So you made a statement that piqued my curiosity, and you mentioned that because it forces Newry to stay as opposed to creating reasons to stay, what would some of the reasons to stay be?
So, as people have spoken about today, it struck me, driving over here, kind of silly that all of us are from Bethel, Newry, Greenwood, Woodstock, and we had to come to Augusta to talk about this. But thanks for having us.
I'd rather go there and talk to you about it. It's a beautiful
It's a
country.
beautiful place. A little muddy right now, but that's okay. Sorry. I went to a school board meeting a couple months ago. As this whole thing, we made an attempt to change the funding formula, which failed. It was close. It was like 45-55, but it failed. I went to the school board to try to reset, ask everybody to take a step back and figure out what it is that would make people want to stay in the district. frankly, I'm a supporter of SAT 44. I have 3 kids that went through the system, start to finish, all college graduates, all off, working for a living, all off the family payroll. Yeah, it works, that was what worked. It isn't working for everybody. So how do we fix that? How does SAT 44, how does the school board, how do the other towns reach out and say, okay, what do you want? What is it that would make the, how do we get the focus back on education? Define a good education. I mean, there's a challenge, and preaching to the choir here, but define a good education. For some, it's college. For some, it's regional. For some, it's what's the word? Technical. Technical skills. I mean, there's all sorts of good education. There is so much more to education than reading, writing, arithmetic. I mean, there's so much more to learn by what a school can offer. For my kids, man, they got it. The school was great for them. What can SAT 44 do to reach out to everybody and say, okay, you're going to leave us? What, are you nuts? We're the best damn education around. They've done a lot. They have done a whole lot. The freshman program, aware of that? So freshmen get sent to 4-H school, and it's a very much hands-on learning. It's not sitting in a classroom, wah, 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 wah. It's hands-on learning. You got it.
Thank you.
Yeah, man, I would have been good at that. Seniors get an opportunity to go to CMMC and get their first year of college done as seniors in high school. As a parent, man, I would have loved that. So the school has done a bunch that I think is positive. But clearly, not everybody agrees with that. So how do we continue to reach out, show people that you would be a fool to leave and get them to stay? That's not what 1080 is about. 1080 is about voting rights. 1080 is about saying, you know what, you guys have got too much money, you don't get to choose. And that's a whole separate issue for me that I hope you guys can keep separate in this conversation. This isn't about withdrawing. This is about having rights to vote.
Thank you, Mr. Largess, for your testimony today.
Thanks.
Take, another in opposition, another 1 or 2, and switch back over.